Cold Calling Technology Platforms 2025 Picks. Cold calling in 2025. Harder, not dead. Cold calling in 2025 is a different sport than it was even a couple years ago. The average success rate sits around 2.3%, down from roughly 4.82% in 2024, so the margin for wasted activity is basically gone. When your baseline is that thin, the good enough tools that worked in the past start quietly killing pipeline through slow dialing, sloppy logging, and poor number reputation. That's why cold calling technology platforms have shifted from a nice-to-have to a core part of any serious outbound motion. At the same time, phone outreach still creates a disproportionate share of real sales conversations compared to a crowded inbox, especially when you combine it with modern sales engagement and tight targeting. The teams still winning on the phones aren't doing anything magical, they're simply running a cleaner system, better data, better workflows, and better coaching loops, so more dials turn into live conversations and meetings. In this guide, we're going to focus on the practical, what to demand from a modern calling stack, how to match dialer type to your outbound motion, and how to roll new tools out without setting your SDR team back. If you're comparing cold calling companies, a sales development agency, or trying to decide whether to hire SDRs internally versus working with an outsourced sales team, this is the framework we use to keep the math in your favor. Why cold calling technology matters more now. The channel still works, but the math has changed. Connect rates are typically only 3 to 10%, and many teams need 18+ dials to reach a single prospect. That's not a work harder problem, it's a throughput and efficiency problem, which means your dialer, your data, and your number health directly determine how much pipeline you can realistically cover with the headcount you have. Tool fatigue is also real. If reps have to bounce between 5 tabs, manually disposition calls, and copy notes into the CRM, adoption collapses and reporting becomes fiction. In practice, the best cold calling platforms reduce friction. They prioritize who to call, automate the busy work, and push clean activity data back into your CRM and sales engagement platform so your team can actually coach and iterate. AI has moved from interesting to baseline performance infrastructure. Just over 56% of sales professionals report using AI daily, and those who do are about 2x more likely to exceed targets. So if your stack can't transcribe, summarize, and surface patterns fast, you'll feel it in ramp time and consistency. The key is using AI to improve execution, prompts, summaries, coaching signals, not as a crutch for weak conversations or sloppy targeting. Match dialer type to your motion, not the logo. A dialer is only the best if it fits your motion. If your AEs or strategic SDRs are doing 50 to 60 highly targeted dials into a narrow enterprise ICP, preview and power dialing usually outperform aggressive parallel dialing because reps need research time, context, and clean handoffs. If your SDR pods are running 100 to 200 dials per day into a large TAM, AI and parallel dialing can be the difference between 2 conversations per hour and a full calendar of meetings. Capacity is where the gap becomes obvious. Manual dialing often yields only 10 to 15 minutes of talk time per hour, while parallel and predictive approaches can push productive talk time to roughly 40 to 50 minutes per hour. That shift changes your pipeline coverage math without adding headcount, but only if your data is clean and your compliance settings are correct. Use the comparison below as a starting point, then pressure test it against your deal size, personalization needs, and operational tolerance for speed. Build the foundation: data, number reputation, and reporting. Most teams blame reps when the real issue is inputs. If your lists are full of switchboards, stale accounts, and wrong titles, A faster dialer just helps you fail faster and demoralizes cold callers with low connect rates. Treat data quality as part of your cold calling tech stack. Budget for enrichment, mobile direct dials, and number validation alongside the subscription, especially if your direct dial connect rate is consistently below 5%. Next, obsess over number reputation and spam labeling. If your caller ID is getting flagged, connect rates crater, even with great targeting and great reps, and your team will fix the wrong thing, usually scripts. Strong platforms support number rotation, caller ID health monitoring, and fast remediation, so you can spot a problem early, quarantine bad numbers, and keep your outbound engine stable. Finally, don't sign anything until you see clean integration and reporting. The sales engagement platform market is growing fast, about $6.64 billion in 2024 and $7.22 billion in 2025. So you'll see a lot of shiny feature checklists. But reporting is where stacks succeed or fail. Your dialer should reliably sync dispositions, recordings, and outcomes, so you can manage the only KPIs that matter: connect rate, conversation to meeting rate, and meetings per rep per week. A world-class dialer sitting on top of dirty data just burns time. Fix the inputs first, then scale the speed. Instead of hunting for a single best tool, shortlist by category and role. For high-volume outbound, AI parallel dialers like Orem and Nooks are common picks because they focus on live conversation throughput and coaching signals. For sequencing and workflow, sales engagement platforms with integrated calling can reduce tab switching. And for stable telephony, modern VoIP providers can keep call quality and routing. The point is to build a lean system that your SDR agency or internal team will actually use every day. The capacity gains are real when the stack fits the motion. Orem has shared examples like Crunchbase improving call productivity by roughly 400% and saving significant rep time through AI parallel dialing, while Nooks cites customers seeing 2 to 5 times more live conversations per rep and stronger conversion to meetings after adopting parallel dialing plus coaching. Those outcomes don't come from a feature checkbox. They come from aligning list quality, dialer strategy, and a coaching cadence that turns conversations into next steps. When you run demos, force a workflow walkthrough. How a rep gets a prioritized queue, how dispositions are captured, how recordings and summaries land in the CRM, and how you report by rep and campaign without spreadsheets. If the vendor can't show connect rate and conversation to meeting rate reporting in 2 clicks, you'll feel it later in lost coaching time and messy attribution. Common mistakes that quietly kill your connect rate. The most common mistake is buying a shiny parallel dialer before fixing targeting and list quality. If your ICP filters are loose and your contact data is heavy on switchboards, wrong titles, and stale accounts, the dialer will amplify frustration. More dials, fewer connects, and a team that starts assuming the market is burned. The fix is boring but effective. Tighten ICP definition, validate numbers, and prioritize mobile direct dials before you scale velocity. Another common failure is running dialers with no KPI framework. Without baseline metrics, connect rate, conversations per hour, meetings per 100 dials, you can't tell whether the problem is messaging, data, coaching, or the platform itself. Define your baselines, track weekly by rep and list source, and make improvements visible. Otherwise, renewals become opinion-driven and reps lose trust in the system. Finally, teams underestimate number reputation and integration friction. Spam labeling can tank performance overnight, and weak integrations push reps into manual logging that destroys adoption and accuracy. Prioritize caller ID health, number rotation, and auto-logging inside your CRM and sales engagement workflows, especially if you're running a distributed outbound sales agency model or B2B sales outsourcing motion where consistency matters. Pilot fast, then coach like it's a sales skill. A good implementation starts with an audit, not a purchase. Pull the last 3 months of activity and calculate dials per rep, connect rate, meetings per 100 dials, and talk time per hour. Then decide where technology will move the needle fastest. In many cases, the first upgrade is data and number health, and the second is the dialer mode that matches how your team actually sells. Run a structured 4 to 8 week pilot with a small group of coachable reps and a control group. Then compare dials, connects, and meetings with weekly coaching. Give reps enough time to adapt to pacing, new call flows, and new objection handling, because most teams kill pilots too early and never capture the compounding benefit of familiarity. A simple success target, like doubling conversations per hour or moving meetings per 100 dials from 2 to 4, keeps decisions grounded in outcomes. Layer AI into coaching and follow-up, not just productivity. The AI SDR market was about $3.85 billion in 2024, with outbound use cases around 49.4% of revenue, because teams want summaries, coaching prompts, and pattern detection that shrink the time from call happened to lesson learned. When managers can review 10 calls in the time it used to take to review 1, your coaching cadence gets sharper and your ramp time drops. Next steps: build in-house or outsource with the right partner. Once you understand your benchmarks and the dialer mode you need, the final decision is operational. Do you want to own the entire system in-house, or do you want sales outsourcing to handle the moving parts? Building internally can work if you have strong ops support, time to manage enablement, and a clear process for data, compliance, and coaching. But if you're already stretched, the stack becomes shelfware fast, and the opportunity cost shows up as missed pipeline coverage. This is where a cold calling agency or SDR agency can be the most practical option, especially if you need speed, coverage, or you're entering a new segment. An outsourced sales team can also help you pair calling with email and list building services, which is often where performance jumps because the channels reinforce each other. The best B2B cold calling services don't just place dials, they manage data quality, number reputation, and reporting so you can see what's working and scale it. At SalesHive, we see this every day. Teams win when they treat cold calling technology platforms as a system, not a single tool. Whether you're comparing a B2B sales agency, an outbound sales agency, or evaluating pay-per-appointment lead generation models, your next step should be the same. Audit your funnel, pick the dialer strategy that matches your motion, and pilot with clear KPIs and a coaching cadence. Do that well, and even in a 2.3% success rate world, phone can still be one of the cleanest levers for predictable pipeline.